What's going on, everybody? Lazy Booking Podcast coming at you with a special Monday afternoon episode with a very special guest you see right now on the right of your screen. Like, subscribe, follow. Let's get it rolling.
Everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
Who's that kid? Nick. He looks like Beaker from Muppets.
The one on FS1, Nick Wright.
Oh,
Yep.
Yeah. I got something.
That's
for
amazing.
I
did not even. I love that.
If I get 5 women and they're all in the same room with me, we're going at it at 110%.
Welcome in, everybody. Another edition back here, Lazy Booking Podcast live on A2DRadio.com. And as you can see on your right, my left, we have a very special guest right here, the Milan Miracle, the TNA Director of Authority, Santino Marella. How are you today, brother?
Oh, good. Thank you. I was trying to get my lighting right here. It's a lamp. I do have a ring, but anyway, we're using a lamp today.
Yeah, it's okay. Good to have you on, man. And I mean, what a time to have you on with how hot everything is running in TNA and WWE. We're going to get into that, but first, let's show a little love to our show sponsor, Dr. Paul Vidal at Specialized Physical Therapy. You can find him in Burlington and Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You can find him on the web at specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Any aches, pains, any long-lasting physical ailments that you have, let his award-winning team help you guys out. Check him out. He's our doctor. Santino, great to have you on today. TNA, WWE, everything is so hot right now, and we always have an A2D is agree to disagree radio. So we always like to open up with an agree to disagree question. So our opening topic is Trick Williams defeating Joe Hendry to become the TNA Champion at NXT Battleground has changed the industry. Agree or disagree to that statement?
I mean, him winning it didn't change it entirely, but the initiative that's associated to, I believe, changed the industry. And that initiative is, of course, the NXT and TNA working partnership. That is a game changer. Companies have lent out other wrestlers in the past, but to allow consistently top talent to appear on the other TV show, that is absolutely industry changing, and it's incredible. Personally, for me, it was the most beneficial. It was beneficial to me more than anybody else because I get to work with my daughter, and you can't put a price tag on that. It's going to be good for Joe Hendry in the end because I'm sure he's going to end up there. But and which would be great for him in making money. But I think working with your daughter, experience wise, is greater than any money you could pay me, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, that's really special. And I mean, you guys just had a tag team match just recently. Really cool to see. Yeah, it was really cool to see you guys working together. And we're definitely going to talk about Arianna and her development in NXT and how great she's been and continues to be. And with this working relationship, Santino, it's one of those things I think a lot of people never thought necessarily they would ever see happen, right? I mean, for so many years, TNA was built off of the backs of the Samoa Joes, the Kurt Angles, and the Knockouts division, which is still one of the best divisions. I mean, they have the WWE Women's Revolution, but NXT or TNA rather has been doing that for many years. And so much of that talent has kind of become either the core or, like the core of the professional wrestling business now, right? So to see all these different talents work and to see an active TNA talent get a main spot at a WrestleMania, such as Joe Hendry working with Randy Orton, what is it like for the optimism within the TNA company? Because I have to imagine this is something that a lot of this talent looks at as, it's a whole new door that they didn't expect maybe to open necessarily when they first arrived in TNA.
Yeah, I mean, at TNA, we're very confident in our ability to put on a wrestling show, but we're all conscious of the fact that we need a larger platform, whether it be, USA or Spike or Fox or whatever. or Amazon Prime or something like that. And if we had that platform, sky's the limit. So having this relationship with WWE, we're kind of halfway there to that platform. We're still on our same, we're Access TV in the US. Well, we're getting a lot more eyes. Digitally, you can watch us anywhere in the world with TNA Plus or YouTube. In Canada, we're on like the biggest network in the country on Sportsnet 360. So if we could simulate that model to the same scale in America, man, all of a sudden, instead of 3,000-4,000 people, we're looking at 10,000, 15,000 people arenas. And like I said, we're confident in our work rate. And I've never been a part of the underdog team. I was always on Monday Night Raw, and then when I was done wrestling, and I thought I was done for quite some time, and I was just a civilian running my business, and all of a sudden I'm back in the mix, and I love it again. So from a bit of a different perspective, I love, of course, being on TV and wrestling is great. But the production side of things, I love it, man. Producing matches, pre-tape, sitting in the creative meetings, production meetings. I love it. I absolutely love it. So I have a brand new second round of life in the business. The first round was 10 years. If this one's 10 years, I'll be very happy. So,
and a very successful 10 years too, obviously in WWE and independent, and it's really amazing to see. And I have to imagine for you too, you're talking about the second phase, right? And we'll get a little bit into your first phase shortly, but when you talk about your second phase, right? It's like what kind of a pride is it to see cases like a Jordan Grace, who has been the backbone of the TNA Knockouts division for so long, and as soon as this relationship starts, I mean, she took the baton and ran with it, right? And as much as you're seeing with Joe Hendry, and then on the other side, you with all of your experience, having done WrestleManias and worked on Monday Night Raw at hot periods in the business, to have this other new crop of talent, not just what you have in TNA, but now you're working with the NXT talent and helping them. Like a lot of them, they have that NIL program, right? So they don't have the independent. So this is almost like their independent experience. What's that like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of them were born and raised in NXT, and they've never worked for anywhere else. So for them, it's a huge experience just to see another president, another head of creative, another producer, another everything, to be honest. And it's not going to completely replace, having that independent experience, but it's definitely good for them to get a different look. And the relationship is cool because our guys are more polished in terms of, they've been on the indies, and we haven't really, when we have a homegrown talent, it's homegrown, after the indies. In terms of homegrown as of television and exposure, nobody comes not knowing how to wrestle to TNA. So we are the more experienced in that sense, but they are, the guys that have WWE behind them. So it truly is a win-win. When our guys go there, they get excellent exposure, and our guys can still do the indies. So a lot of our guys, all of a sudden you appear on NXT and your indie booking rate goes up, and it has a trickle-down effect where you can make a lot more money throughout the year. And there are a few months, mostly we're twice a month, but there are a few months where we work once a month. So that means you have 3 weekends to make money on the indies. And if you appear on NXT and you multiply that by those 3 weekends and that increased booking rate, they can make a lot more money. So it has a very positive effect on their life. And the guys from NXT that come over, that they get very valuable reps. And the fact that you're seeing a whole other system, you have to, and that's one of the things that you get from the indies is meeting new people. You do not know them. You haven't had a chance to practice or have a live event with them, and you got to go out there and have a match. And that is very valuable.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
it's the truest definition of win-win that I've ever seen in the business.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. And we see a lot of this different cross promotion. At one point, TNA worked with AEW, I think 3 or 4 years ago. And, you see NWA had Natalia over at their program to work with their young talent and their women's champion there. Do you feel like this is, I mean, obviously on a greater scale, but like maybe as close as we could get to like almost like the territorial return?
Oh, interesting. Well, yeah, there are some. I mean, there's GCW, Pro Wrestling Revolver, Major League Wrestling. So there are some companies. They don't have a lockdown on a territory, but there are some companies that are out there that are significant, you know, and you can, if you work those, you'll definitely get some experience. I guess about as close. To answer your question, it's about as close as we're going to get to taking it back to territory days, because it's very difficult to, you know, go back to the way it was, and not that it's better or worse, but you know, that time has passed.
Yeah, and you know, obviously this week coming up, another big matchup on NXT. It was great to see you, by the way, back on WWE television
Yeah,
this past
cool.
week.
So I appeared the one time in a form of a pre-tape, and it was so well received. When I was going to return to the next TV taping, I was like, "Can I just do my promo in the ring instead of in the back? Because I just want to hear. I missed my old music, and the old music had that immediately identifiable beginning.
100%.
So, and when the music hit, it was awesome. I got some goosebumps, and you know, the producers in the back and Coach Blue and Shawn Michaels, they were happy for me, and also happy that the audience got that reaction as well. So it was definitely cool, actually.
Yeah, you really do have like some of the most recognizable intro music and entrance just in general, where as soon as that hits, everybody knows Santino's coming, and it's a pop. It's a Santino pop.
Yeah, it's been really cool, especially now. You know, like when you buy an old car or you buy a car and it gets older and older and older, the value kind of goes down, and all of a sudden it hits 25 years and it becomes a classic car, and all of a sudden the value starts going back up again. So I think I've become like classic, you know. I'm kind of having that resurgence of value and or nostalgia and vintage, or whatever you want to call it. But it's there's been enough distance between my WWE career and present day that it's nostalgic to some people, and I get that a lot. People say, "You're a part of my childhood. You were a big part of my childhood," which is cool. You know, I still feel like I'm a child myself, but um, you know, the calendar speaks for itself. I think I debuted like 18 years ago or something, or 17. Hey, no, 18 years ago. Yeah, 2007.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Yeah, it's time flies. Like I still can remember when you debuted as the fan in the crowd and came out and defeated Umaga and became
years ago. It's just nuts.
Yeah, we're
So
almost at 20 years of Santino.
27. That's 20 years old. Like it just doesn't. I mean, like I said, the calendar speaks for itself, but it doesn't feel like it adds up.
Yeah, I mean, so much, and obviously you've done so much since then.
Right.
Real quick, before we get into your career a little bit, I do want to. You touched on obviously second generation Arianna Grace, your daughter, working in NXT. I feel like her character has really developed so great, and I believe that part of it is having that ability to go back and forth and work in TNA, and having her be a focal point there. She's gotten a lot of confidence, and she looks really, really good in the ring. So my question to you: did you foresee this coming? Did you feel like obviously when did you feel like this was going to be a possibility for her, or were you shocked when she said, "Hey, Dad, I want to get into the wrestling business"?
Yeah, well, I mean, she's been around it for her whole life, and she's come to Manias and Summer Slams, and she came with me to Japan for a month, and she'd come down to OVW for, you know, a month here and a month there. So she's always been around it, and I knew she always had the ability to do it, but we never talked about it. You know, she was a law school, med school candidate, and, you know, biology degree, and honor roll and all that stuff. And plus, she was Miss Teen Ontario, and she hosted television shows. So I mean, I had all that stuff up. But she did sports. She did some judo and some field hockey and stuff like that. So the athleticism was there. The stage presence was there, but we just I don't know. We didn't talk about it until she graduated university, and I'm like, what are you gonna do? Be a biologist? Like, what? What what does that even entail? But I said, do you want to do this? And she started training, and nothing special, just in the class with everybody else. And she was getting it. There's a certain, the smarter you are, the faster you get it. So she's pretty smart. And then COVID came, kind of messed things up. And then, she packed up and she left, man. She went down and went to Orlando and was training at multiple schools until she got that. She had a tryout once, but she was too green, like 6 months. And she wasn't ready, And then a couple of years later, she had that tryout and she crushed it. And then she got hired, and there was no freebies. That's my point. She had to earn it. And now she's been busting her ass. She had a knee injury. She went with someone who was really green that blew out her knee, and that took 9 months out of her career. And then she had an old boxing injury that resurfaced. But anyway, she's been clear. She's doing well. I wish they had more live reps for them. I know they have the Florida loop, but you just need reps. You need reps. And I have no doubt that in time she'll be there, especially once she gets called up and she's on TV every week and gets like us. They don't even have live events anymore, but they should, because it takes about 1,000 matches to start getting it. Really perfecting your craft. But if you're having 50 matches a year, well, that's going to take 20 years, so that's not an option. But if you're having 5 matches a week, it's going to be a lot quicker.
Yeah, 100%.
Or I should say, if you're having 250 matches a year, it takes 4 years to have 1,000 matches. Like 4 compared to 20, it's a big difference.
Oh, 100, absolutely. And you guys we talked about it earlier, but you had the opportunity to work together on TNA television against Robert Stone, formerly Robbie E., and Victoria Crawford, Alicia Fox. Like, what was that like? Like, you got your moment. You guys had this great moment on television together.
I knew it would happen. I've thought about it, and I believe in manifestation. So I knew it would happen at some point. It would be like way too ridiculous for that not to happen.
Yeah.
And it just came a little sooner than I thought. For example, if this relationship between NXT and TNA didn't happen, I would have had to have waited to do it at WWE. But because of the relationship, it happened much sooner, and it happened on TNA. So I think it was universally well received by the pro wrestling universe that it was a feel-good moment for everybody to see father and daughter together. I know in TNA it was a first. I don't know if it has happened in WWE. There's a couple options, like Ric Flair and Charlotte and Vil and Natty. Those are really the only father-daughter combos in WWE. I know there's Tully and Tessa, but I don't know if they've had a chance to do that. So who knows? If it happens in WWE, it may be historical history making as well.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point. When I think of all the father-daughter duos, I think you guys might be the first. I can't think of anybody. I mean, I know that Rick never worked with Charlotte, and I think it's a testament too, because you did have a major injury that you thought your career was done, and then to be able to heal and keep your body in such amazing shape kind of created that opportunity.
Yeah, so I bought an iron neck device probably in 2020. And so my neck surgery was in 2014, and my neck wasn't well enough. It was taking way too long. So I started using the iron neck all the time, and slowly but surely, it's kind of like one of those things where I can feel when something hurts, but you can't feel when something doesn't hurt. And all of a sudden, I started doing jiu-jitsu, and I'm really cautious about my neck, and I had a couple bumps. I'm like, oh man, my neck doesn't hurt. And I'm like, huh. So yeah, I've just been training it and doing physio and rehab, and I had to do my shoulders, and I had some stem cells injected in October in my bicep tendon in my shoulder. That really helped. I've been had 2 rounds of stem cells since 2020 in my lower back. That's really helped. And I've just been learning how to decompressed my lower back, and I'm in the room, red light therapy, and I have alkaline mats, and I just got this BioFlex laser pad I put on my back, and you put it all together. It's a lot of stuff. I have to stay hydrated and strengthen my glutes and my hip flexors. But once I'm able to do all that stuff, I feel really good, like better than I did in my 40s for sure. I feel sometimes better than I did in my 30s, to be honest. And a year and a half ago, I started training jiu-jitsu, 2-3 times a week, and put that all together. And all of a sudden, I'm finding myself really capable of wrestling again. And I found a really good medical, osteo, chiro. He even studies shamanism, and he does all energy pathways and energy meridians.
Wow.
He's like, yeah, man, you're good to go. And so it kind of snuck up on me. But yeah, I feel amazing. So no complaints here.
Yeah, and if anybody doesn't follow Santino on social media, you really should, because you do offer a lot of like health advice and stuff on there too, which is really cool. When you make a lot of those, you talk about some of the products that you use, and you talk about how certain things help you and how they can be helpful. So you seem like a great guy, so I feel like I know the answer, but just to hear your perspective on it. What is your motivation to feel like you want to like give back in terms of providing health advice or experiences that you've had? Is it because you've gone through the struggle of a major injury that you had to overcome? Or is it just, I mean, obviously you have a really good balance of wellness in your life just in general.
Yeah, well, I have like the best balance in my life right now than I've ever had. WWE was like every weekend, and when I was there, it was live events, both TVs. So that wasn't very balanced. And then after that, I was home, like, running my business sometimes 7 days a week, and that wasn't really balanced. There's a lot of things. One, I'm a big advocate of you live once, and quality of life, and living life to its fullest is like you have to live your life almost with a sense of urgency. Like, we gotta have fun. I try and do something every single day, multiple things a day, and just live my life to its fullest. But can't be doing it with back pain. That plus I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old that I really want to be able to get down and train with them and wrestle with them and play with them. So I need to. Yeah, there were a couple times where, Daddy, can you do this? And I'm like, man, my back hurts. I can't get down on my knees and play dinosaurs or whatever. So I don't want that to happen too frequently. So it's a combination. Also, as a coach, I started coaching again. I took a couple of years off coaching when I moved up north in 2020, but I'm coaching again. So I need to be able to give my students real advice that I use myself, and say, look, this is what I do. It's not just a theory. It's not a concept. I practice it, and this works for me. It may not work for you, but it's definitely not wrong because it works. And so I have a lot of motivating factors. Obviously, to give back. I'm like super blessed, man. I just had this incredible life, and I'm in the middle of this incredible life phase I'm in my 50s. And I want to help others to have this kind of best time of their life too, man. But whether it's health, just a positive mindset, getting the most out of life. Don't carry excess, stupid mental baggage around, and just don't fret the small things, and just focus on the big picture. And the secret, like increased self-discipline, is going to get you where you need to go, and that's like the secret of life, man, is self-discipline. And I didn't always think that way. Even when I was an athlete, sometimes I looked at things as a chore, or I didn't want to do them. But I look back now and I'm like, man, I was so fortunate to be able to do that stuff, like that 8 a.m. morning jog, or practicing 5 nights a week, twice a day. I wish I could train twice a day now, but I have to kind of hold back a little bit. I'm training tonight, but normally I'd wake up and do like a heavy weight session followed by running, and then have jiu-jitsu at night. But I find when I come out of the gate on a Monday too strong. By Wednesday, I'm reminded that I'm 51 and I got to slow down. A lot of things. Yeah, my nickname's AC to the max, you know, and it's just I want to live life to the fullest every single day. And I get a kick out of the fact that people say, "What? You're 51? No way!" You know. And I want to be the guy that people can't believe is 75 when I can still do cartwheels and handsprings and all that stuff. I know a lot of the guys at TNA, they popped that last match the way I was moving in the ring, and they're like, "What the hell is going on?" They see me in the gym at the hotels, but to see it and pull off the splits and the hip toss, and I did a nip up at the border brawl and stuff. So I'm just trying to maintain that athleticism as long as I can, because I know nobody beats Father Time, and there's going to be a time when I already don't do backflips anymore. I used to do backflips, but I don't do that anymore. I've limited something.
You finally found where your ceiling was.
I'm having a match with my son when he's 16. Mm-hmm. So he's 6. So I'm training already, because if he stays in jiu-jitsu for the next 10 years, I got to be ready, because when he's 16 and I'm 60, that's the thing. I'll be 60 when he's 16. I was 44 when he was born. So it's going to be a showdown, and I got to beat him. So no freebies.
Lots of time to prep for that too. So much of what you said resonates with me too, because literally as you said the word chore, in my head, one of the things, the philosophies that I try to live by, I'm not saying I'm 100% accurate on it, is everything's a chore until you turn it into a habit. Once it's a habit, it doesn't feel like a chore anymore, right? It's just a part of your life. And so a lot of what you said really is true. It's difficult till you get up and do it. And then when you do it a couple more times, it's easier and easier. And then next thing you know, you don't even think about it. It's like repetition of adding these elements to your life. So yeah, I could totally resonate with what you were saying there. Let's dive into your career for a little bit here. I want to just touch on some of the big moments in your career, right? So obviously your debut happens with WWE. You trained in OVW. You end up getting the call up to WWE. And I mean, what a spot you get, right? You're the fan in the crowd in Italy, and you end up being called in for, an open challenge essentially with, the late Umaga, who's one of the greats. Talk about what your headspace was like. You're in the crowd, you're getting ready to go out, you go in, you have that big moment, massive pop. What was that moment like for you?
Man, well, it was very easy to see that this was your once in a lifetime shot, and I was very blessed to have Rip Rogers as the most influential coach in my professional wrestling training. And I knew that I was prepared, and I knew that he told me I'm prepared, and he's not going to lie to me. And if I wasn't, he would say, "You're not, but good enough." And he said, "Yeah." He goes, "You're over prepared." When I was training, I was a machine in the ring. And then when you make it to WWE, you have these shorter matches, and you have to wrestle for TV, and you really the 80-20 rule, right? Like 80% of your matches are like 20% of what you know. And people then they want to see your patented stuff. And anyway, but to go back, yeah, I was prepared. I talked myself through it. It was a lot of stuff. Like, so Mike Bucci, who was Nova, I was renting a room. He had the house where some wrestlers lived, and he knew he's Italian background. I'm Italian background, so we talked about it. I was playing a Russian character, and then Vince called because Mike Bucci was in talent relations, and Vince said, "Hey, is anybody Italian in the developmental landscape?" And he said, "Well, I think Boris is Italian." That was my wrestling name. It was Boris. Yeah. And they called me and they said, "Hey, can you speak Italian on a Friday?" And I spoke some Italian. And it's one of those things where I used to drive downtown Toronto. It was like over an hour every day in traffic. And I used to listen to Italian tape, because I wanted to improve my Italian. So I had memorized some of the lines from the tape. I was not fluent. And when they called me, I recited some of the lines from the tape. And they were like, my accent was good enough where they're like, "I don't know, it sounds good." And they literally sent me my passport. I flew out Saturday, the next day, and landed on a Sunday, and Raw was on a Monday, and that was it. It was like boom, boom, boom. Then when it happened, I remember Johnny Ace saying like, "Pack your bags. You're on the road," and that was it. I was on the road for like 8 years straight until my neck kind of, the critical mass reached that point where I could no longer do it. Yeah, and then here we are today. It was a whirlwind, and it's funny when you look back. It was quick, but it was also long. Because it's there's many days in there.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. And you saw so many different superstars over through that time as well. And one of the, I think, most beloved duos that we've seen was yourself and Vladimir Kozlov. And then obviously we talk, you had the amazing segment with the Tea Party with Sheamus and all of that. But that relationship, right? Because Kozlov was built up to be this like just indestructible force. Like he was almost, yeah, he was like Brock before there was Brock, right? Like he was supposed to be that guy. And then you put these two total opposites together in terms of character wise, and it was absolute magic. What was that time like for you? You guys were tag team champions. You put on amazing segments. He showed a personality that just, I mean, it was like through the roof with you. What was that time like for you guys working together?
Well, it's funny because when I was in OVW, I was doing this Russian character, Boris, and my Mr. Stronko, my tag team partner, called me one day and he's like, "Dude, they hired a real Russian," and I was I was like, we were saying we were like military MMA trained sambo guy, and they hired like a legitimate sambo world champion, and I'm like, "Don't worry, man, don't worry, we're gonna work together with him." And he's thinking he's gonna take our spot, he's gonna take our job. I said, "Don't worry." Sure enough, we were all working together as the Russians in OVW. So then when I got called up as Santino, Oleg Vladimir was still there, and he got called up as well. But we weren't doing anything together. And his kind of, when you're a monster and the monster gets that first loss, it's like, where do you go from there? So I knew how funny he was just from life, like, because we were friends, hanging out with him, riding together. So I pitched that we become this tag team, and I guess the writers understood the odd couple, dynamic, and put us together. And yeah, it was some of the most fun I've ever had because we were riding together and splitting hotel rooms and working out together. And he's disciplined. He likes to have fun, but he's reasonable. And, I consider myself like that too. I like to have fun, but I was pretty reasonable. We got some good sleep and got some good training in and some good times. And no, it was fun. It was really fun, man. Yeah, and like any tag team partner, you're like married to the person. You're with the guy, 6 days a week. And even when we were living in Tampa, we'd go home, and if we're home for a couple of days, we'd still go out to eat or come over or whatever. We hung out a lot. Yeah, and to this day, sometimes we don't talk for a couple of months. Well, we kind of, even if it's social media or whatever, but if we hang out together, it's just like yesterday.
I love that. It's amazing. A couple other names that you worked with that were very memorable was obviously Maria Kanellis Bennett and Beth Phoenix, which is, I mean, just some of the visuals, if you go back and watch some of that, her with you on her shoulders, really actually kind of helped to establish how powerful her character was as the Glamazon. What was that experience like as well, working with those ladies?
So, well, Maria is just awesome. Such a great attitude. And gorgeous. And my friends back home were like, "Oh, we get to work out," they were she was just, a Playboy model and everything. But she was great. I don't think it was that long though. It was kind of that was my beginning of me being a heel.
Mm-hmm.
I think I turned heel when I was with her. And but it led to, me working with Snoop Dogg in my first WrestleMania appearance, and it was fun. But the Glamarella was a lot longer, a lot more significant in terms of the lifespan of my career. And that was Beth's idea. She pitched that. And she was, there's peaks and valleys. She was kind of in between storylines. And I guess I was too, or I was just finishing a storyline, and she pitched it. And then the dynamics of that relationship of being that alpha female and that insecure guy, it worked really well. Beth is like the best. Like, if you were an employer and you need like really a good employee you can trust, you get Beth. If you
Mhm.
like Edge knows, she's probably an awesome wife. She's an artist and she's like super strong, like legit. When you see her working out, you're like, geez, man, I guess I'm not going to do legs today. I'm really watching her do legs and stuff.
Yeah.
But sweetest human being, awesome mom, like she's like Superwoman, to be honest. And yeah, we just got it. We understood the dynamics. It was fun going to work, and we pitched up and bounce ideas off each other and laugh, and then go out and execute it. And she kind of came out of her shell a little bit in terms of the character. Yeah, she's amazing, and we both look back at our Glamourella days very, very fondly. I haven't seen her in a while. If I see her, because wherever we both married, both got kids, and oh no, I saw her. Sorry, I think I saw her in Toronto once at SummerSlam, not too long ago. But
Yeah.
it's always like a huge like hug. Sometimes I get emotional if I haven't seen them in a while, and because it was such a fun memory.
Yeah, I mean that was probably some of the best work that we've seen you do, and obviously I really think that was so pivotal to her character development as well. You mentioned Miss WrestleMania. Obviously, WrestleMania 25, Miss WrestleMania was a very, I mean, what a moment that was. Honestly, what was that like when you had that pinch? Were you pitched? Were you like totally into that? Were you ready to go for that?
Yeah, so it was supposed to be the culmination of the storyline with Beth, where I'm desperately trying to prove that men are superior athletes.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be a one-off thing where I just dress up as a woman, win the battle royal, and that was it. And then the fallout from that event. But it was so funny that Santino was only around for like a few months, but people remember it because it was so ridiculous. But I was worried about it a little bit, like, oh man, how do you come back from this? But when it was go time, I was all in, and I think when you look back, it was some of my best character work because it was like multiple layers. Like, I'm not Santino. So that's one layer. And then Santino pretending to be a woman is another layer. And anyway, so I had to have like the accent and then the female version of the accent. And it was funny. But Santino, we never admitted on TV that it was me. So in terms of the WWE storyline, and then we did a thing where I ran off. Santino got fired by Donald Trump and ran off, and I showed up like 1 second later to pretend it was like two different people.
Yeah.
So there should be a Santino action figure. We should start that trending hashtag.
Yeah, we got to get a hashtag going for that, 100%. Oh man, that was just really good stuff. A couple more quick questions. The Cobra, right? I mean, what like a whirlwind that was, right? And obviously we have the sock that comes. Can you talk about the development of the Cobra and how it just kind of took on a life of its own?
Yeah, so when I was living in Japan in 2004, this guy Taro, a friend of ours, showed me this thing where he would just transform his hand into this wooden mechanical puppet thing. And he showed me in a bar after a show. We were celebrating after one of our battle art shows. And he got me to do it a couple of times. His was different. His had like a handle, and he would control it. And then we met again, a couple months later, and he was asking me if I remembered how to do it. Showed me again, and that was it. Then it was like dormant for like 5 years. It was like he planted a seed or something. And then one live event, it was in Atlanta. It was either Chavo or Carlito, and I was gonna have my comeback. So I'm like, jab, 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 clothesline, do this thing with my arm, hit the guy, he turns, and then I do a schoolboy and roll him up. And that's what it was. It was just for a while. It was a Cobra into a schoolboy. And then one day Regal bumped off it and I covered and it won. So then I'm like, okay, I guess, well, it's a finishing move now. And so I did it a few times just on live events. I never did it on TV. And then one day I come to TV and Ricky Steamboat was the producer, and I was wrestling Zack Ryder. And he goes, yeah, you know, you're going to go over with the Cobra. Vince wants to see the Cobra. I'm like, what? Vince knows about the Cobra? And he goes, yeah, he reads the reports because the producers have to write reports on the live events and upload them. And he's heard anyway. So I did it on TV, and the audience laughed immediately, and which is not normal. Normally they got to see it a few times on TV to go, oh, that's that thing he does. But they laughed the first time they ever saw it. So Cena, I mean, when I first did it on the live event, Cena's like, yeah, I would keep that if I were you. And within a few weeks of doing it on TV, the audience would like jump up, like, "Oh, it's time for the Cobra!" And I remember being like kind of shocked at how quickly it gained popularity among the fans. But it's still popular to this day.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah. So, and then I did it for a couple of years before we introduced the merchandise, the sleeve. So, and then here's something. I was told by different people at conventions that the Cobra was banned in their school. But one guy went to elementary school in Australia. One person went to elementary school in England, one in America, and one in Canada. So the Cobra has been banned at elementary schools of 4 continents, which means that, you know, a lot of kids were doing it. And it's interesting. You don't know what's going to become pop culture. And I've seen people send me video clips of professional athletes scoring a goal and doing the Cobra and scoring a touchdown and, you know, a home run and all this stuff. So, yeah, even Giannis, I think Tatumbo, I think I said, he did it backstage to one of his colleagues. So it's it's interesting. It's a little bit of pop culture, the Cobra.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It was like the next generation's Mr. Sacco in a lot of ways too, right? And it became something amazing. You guys have a pay-per-view, or I think it's actually on TNA Impact Plus, right? Against All Odds coming up.
Yep.
So that's very exciting. You guys ready for that event?
I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm training. I'm trying to beat this guy's ass.
Yeah, well, good luck this week with that. And yeah, I mean, it's a big weekend for wrestling just in general. Worlds Collide happening for NXT and Money in the Bank. Just so much wrestling, but it's like you can't get enough of it. It's just so much fun to watch. But we're very excited to see a lot of what you have going on right now. And, you know, I was going to ask a question around this, but I think I'm just going to make the statement to you, you know, Santino, especially when you see the reaction of a guy like an RTruth that got released.
Yeah.
Well, not released, not renewed. And I think what maybe a lot of people thought was an unexpected reaction. You know, I was going to ask you, did you think that this character would not just have the shelf life that it has, but still get a reaction 20 years later? But I could tell you as a viewer, a fan, and I know when a lot of people found out we were having you on, shared a lot of these sentiments. You don't have to be a world champion to be a legend in the business, right? You could work, and my God, when you talk about entertaining moments, they call it sports entertainment or whatever they want to call it, professional wrestling. You and guys like RTruth encompassed it all. And I just think as fans, we should let you know that we appreciate all the effort and that those years of coming back from an injury and now getting this, you know, revival for yourself. I think it's well deserved, and you should have that and do it on your own terms. So we appreciate you.
Thank you. Yeah, I called RTruth immediately and said, "Hey, is this real?" And I said, because, you know, a lot of people have always said that they'd love to see us tag together, and not sure what your plans are, but TNA is a great place to work, and you get to work the indies and you get to do all this stuff. So we'll see. We're going to try, and AEW is always there, and I know they're going to offer more money than TNA, but TNA has a lighter schedule. You can make that money by working the indies, and that's on your terms. and it's a lot more fun. A lot more fun.
Yeah, I hope we do get that moment. And hey, he's a former world champion over there, so
Right.
there could be a full circle moment there.
Yes, we have to put it out there in the universe.
Absolutely. But thank you to everybody out there who watched today. We want to thank Santino again for your time, brother. It means a lot to us. Great conversation today, encompassing current events as well as going over to the highlights of your career. I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Specialized Physical Therapy, and make sure you check out the doctor. Go to their website. You can make an appointment for yourself. But again, good luck this weekend, Santino. Guys, make sure you guys tune in. TNA Impact on Thursday nights. NXT, Santino might pop up on there. And they have Against All Odds coming up this weekend. So it's a lot of fun. But for myself, for Santino, and everybody here at A2D Radio and Lazy Booking Podcast, we want to thank you guys. Have a great day. Have a great week. And if there's anybody out there that you love, make sure you let them know. Give them a hug. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you so much.